Well, I made a trip to Walmart and picked up one of these good old Value Power 26R batteries. And this will be going in the $25 812. Battery's $49.99. It costs more than the tractor. What the heck? I got the Value Power battery in the 812 here, and it turns out that this little wire back here fell off the fuse holder, and that killed all the power to the whole tractor. So we put that on and we're good. So we definitely need a new voltage regulator. There's no point in even testing it. The whole plug was just full of water and corrosion and junk, and the plug over here is totally destroyed. So I might have a used one in my garage. I'll look around before I purchase a new one, but for now we can start it and we can drive it, which is good news. I found a used voltage regulator in the garage. It looks like it's pretty nice. I don't know if it works, but we're going to hook it up and try it. I cut the plug off and crimped on some connectors for now, so we'll put it back together and see what we got. Well, that used voltage regulator did not work, so I figured that I would go to plan B and buy a new one. So let's see what happens. Two things for it here. I got this little digital voltmeter here on Amazon, and it's only 1 1/8 diameter, but I figured I could mount this up here in the dashboard somewhere, like maybe up over the headlight switch here would be a good spot for it. And I just got to find a hole saw that's 1 1/8 inch diameter. And I also bought this voltage regulator, which maybe was stupid, but it's a new style one. It's not an old style, but it was only like $12, so I figured it's worth the gamble. I think that the bolts are actually, yeah, I think the holes are the same bolt pattern. No, it's a little bit shorter, but anyways, whatever. For 10 or 12 bucks, I figured I'd get it. So anyways, we'll get back to this soon. Well, I ended up not using the new regulator. I ended up not wanting to drill holes in the dashboard to make the bolt spacing fit right. So I'll save that for another project. And I had another 14-horse Kohler that came out of a Case skid steer, I think it was, or a Bobcat skid steer, and it had a really nice looking voltage regulator on it. So I took that one, and that will be what we try now. $5 812 again, and I've been having a problem. I've tried, this is my third different used voltage regulator I put in here, and I can't get it to charge no matter what I do. And I'm having all kinds of irregularities with it trying to start, like it just craps out. And what I determined is that I made a little jumper wire here to go from the stator, and I literally would just hold it on the battery, and I put my voltmeter on there, and I'm getting a charge, so that's a good sign. I still have 28 volts feeding the voltage regulator from the stator. I've cleaned up all the ground connections, no issue. So what I determined is that the key switch was bad. If I put my continuity tester on here between the R plug for the regulator and the B terminal for the battery, I have no continuity in any of the positions. So I just had a brand new switch on my shelf, and it has continuity between the R and the B. That's how it charges the battery. It backfeeds the key switch, and then it goes over to the battery terminal and ultimately feeds back to the hot on the battery. So I'm going to swap out this key switch and put this new one in, and we'll fire it up and see what happens. Key switch is in, so let's see if we can fire it up. All right, close. Get a little more gas. It's hard to see because I didn't have the voltmeter on the camera, but it's hitting 12.86. Before it was at 11 point something, so it was climbing up, but it should have been hitting 14 volts or so, a little over 14. So something just wasn't right. I think if I let it run for a while, it would go up to a normal voltage. Actually, trying to solder new ends on the 2 wires from the stator, and the copper is so old and pretty much like tarnished that solder wouldn't even stick to it. I tried sanding it with a piece of sandpaper first, even trying to tin the connection before I soldered the 1/4-inch plug on there, but it was just no good. It wouldn't even stick. So we're going to replace that wire and see if we can get a better result out of this thing. That's the problem with these old machines. I mean, this thing is over 40 years old, and that wire is trashed. So, you know, I think that going forward, if I'm ever going to resurrect a really old machine like this, I probably want to just make a new wiring harness right out of the box instead of chasing these crappy connections down and wasting tons of time. Yeah, so it turns out that the wire was actually dropping 5 volts from the plug at the stator to the other end where it would hook up to the voltage regulator. So I unplugged the wire directly from the stator, and it was getting like 32, 33 volts, and at the voltage regulator it's only getting like 28. So somehow I noticed over time that your voltage regulator kind of cuts your voltage in half. So I was only getting 12 point something. I should have been getting 14. So if I was 5 volts off, it's 2.5 volts. So that would take my 12 something and make it 14 something. Ish. Got a little package in the mail today from Amazon. And let's see, what do we got here? Let's see, we got 100 feet of blue 14 gauge primary wire made by Southwire, or at least it's supposed to be. It doesn't say that anywhere on here. Made in USA. It's supposed to be made in Georgia, and it's solid copper. When you go on there to online and look for wire, they have all this crap that's aluminum clad with copper. I don't want that aluminum crap. I want solid copper. Anyways, I bought this on Amazon. It was like 15 bucks, so you can't go wrong with that. And what I'm going to do is I've got my Packard 56 connectors over here, and I'm going to make an end on there so I can rewire the whole circuit for the stator. And my vise broke. Like, it's not a big deal, but the jaws have like these screws that hold the actual jaws on, and they all like fell out, so the jaws keep falling off. So I went out and bought some new screws. They're quarter 20 screws, but the heads on these new ones are like a hair too big to fit into the hole that was on the old vise. So I'm toying with just taking them over to the grinder and just grinding them a hair so that they'll fit in there. So I was trying to tighten them up, and they like would bottom out on that thing, which would be annoying. So yeah, what the heck, you know? It's like I went to Home Depot, and they only had them that were flat blade. They didn't have any Phillips. I went to Tractor Supply, they had flat blade. I went to Lowe's, and they had Phillips. I said, what the heck, I'll get them. Granted that these are like $1 worth of screws, and I've wasted 3 hours chasing them down. That's how it goes, right? But I should have just got the flathead, I guess, and called it a day. But it's kind of annoying that they're a little bigger. These are Hillman screws. I noticed at Home Depot, Hillman comes in a orange bag, and at Lowe's it's a green bag. I had gotten all these electrical connectors here at this company's website here, and you got to take these little tabs and solder a wire on each one, and then they'll drop into here and make the male side of this plug. It's pretty simple. And then I'll use this blue wire. I need 2 strands, and it will run all the way up to the dashboard from the engine. And then I'll solder on the other end the 2 connectors that will go to the voltage regulator, and we'll rewire this puppy.